Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. The final item of business is a member's business debate on motion 23892 in the name of Emma Harper on the potential for a Galloway National Park. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put. For those members who wish to speak in the debate, please put R in the chat function. And I call on Emma Harper to open the debate. Ms. Harper, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome the opportunity to bring this debate to Chamber, which allows me to highlight Bonnie Galloway and the South West of Scotland. I want to thank colleagues from all parties in the Chamber who have supported my motion to move on the conversation for the potential of a national park this evening, and thank the Galloway National Park Association, the GNPA, President Dame Barbara Kelly, Chair Rob Lucas and all other trustees. I also thank the National Farmers Union, Scottish Land and Estates, Ramblers Scotland for their briefings, and also the individual farmers and others who have contacted me with their views. I have been quite impressed with the media and social media reaction to this motion. It's good to have people lay their cards on the table. Presiding Officer, this evening we shall examine the pros and cons of the potential for a national park for Galloway, the potential benefits to health and well-being, and the conservation, the environment, the economy, future sustainability, and the GNPA discussion paper, A Galloway National Park, It's Our Time. Specifically, the pandemic has demonstrated the absolute necessity that access to outdoor spaces supports health and well-being. Evidence to the Health and Sport Committee and our social prescribing report backs this up. Tackling obesity, preventing type 2 diabetes, tackling cardiovascular disease, and promoting good mental health is all part of this. The GNPA states that a national park could attract more visitors, promote a thriving rural economy in the South West while helping tackle the climate emergency and promoting biodiversity. The Scottish Government has committed to protect at least 30% of our land for nature by 2030. That's 30 by 30, and a national park could aid in that. National park status for Galloway would raise the profile of the area, attracting visitors, new residents and investment. Strengthening the resilience of communities is a goal of the association. But all this has to be done properly and not to the detriment of local farmers and rural and agribusinesses or the specially designated UNESCO Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere. Early in this parliamentary session, I hosted a biosphere event to raise awareness of the biosphere and the work that it does. And I welcome the recent award of £1.9 million over 5 years of funding for the UNESCO Biosphere from the South of Scotland Enterprise. SOCI, the enterprise, needs to be supported in its excellent economic development work. It has achieved a lot since it hit the ground running last year as the pandemic started. Presiding Officer, respondents to the GNPA's own surveys felt that Galloway's dispersed rural population presents additional challenges, but the long-term security of being a national park was seen by many communities and businesses, including hotels, B&B accommodation and outdoor activity providers, as a potential catalyst for their development and expansion. The pandemic has shown us that working and learning from home in a rural community is achievable as long as digital connectivity meets requirements, and I welcome the Scottish Government's investment in digital rollout. A national park could provide additional employment opportunities for our region's young people on their doorstep by giving them a choice of career prospects whether they choose to remain in the area or return to Galloway following a further education. We know that South West Scotland already has world-class destinations like the internationally recognised UNESCO Biosphere, the Dark Sky Park within Galloway Forest and the Seven Stains mountain bike trails. And let's not forget adding the waterfront at Stranraer in the Rins of Galloway to this world-class list, as it has hosted the World Skiffy Championship and is home to the famous Oyster Festival. Presiding Officer, as well as the positives a national park could bring, it is important to highlight the concerns which have been raised as well. The National Farmers Union their briefing clearly states that they do not support a proposal for a Galloway National Park at this time. Interestingly, I have also been contacted by NFU members who farm in Galloway who are in favour of a national park. There are concerns that national park status could create more barriers and more bureaucracy to development in the terms of planning and policy, which would not benefit agricultural businesses that are looking to invest, diversify or develop new income streams. A national park cannot be a barrier to mitigating climate change through modern farming practices or renewable energy policies from being implemented. I am aware that there are ways in which planning powers can be retained by local authorities and not assumed by national park boards, and I think these issues must need to be explored and discussed further. It's crucial that all stakeholders are at the table when discussing the potential for a national park. And there are now new stakeholders like the South of Scotland Enterprise, regional land use partnerships and the South Scotland Destination Alliance, which is the new strategic destination management and marketing organisation for tourism and hospitality across South Scotland. I am acutely aware that we are still in a global pandemic and businesses in Galloway and across Scotland are getting hammered by Boris's bungled Brexit, and we are very near the end of this parliamentary session. However, Presiding Officer, I am looking at light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is shining on Galloway. With this in mind, I want to make it clear to the Minister that I am not asking for immediate action. The COVID pandemic, vaccine rollout and repairing the damage from Boris's Brexit are of primary importance. What I am asking for is to look ahead and plan ahead for Galloway's future, and I ask for the Government to set out its position on further consultation regarding the potential for a national park and whether it will pursue wider consultation to best serve the future interests for all parties in Galloway. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much, Ms Harper. Open debate, and I call David Torrance to be followed by Finlay Carson. Mr Torrance, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And also I would like to thank Emma Harper for securing this important debate in Chamber today. As a lifelong member of the Scouts and an outdoor enthusiast, discussion around Scotland's national parks is one of the very close to my heart. It makes me proud that the founding father of national parks was a Scot, John Moore, who left Dunbar as a young boy for life in America. His efforts in the 1980s led to the development of the worldwide national parks movement. His legacy led to the Scottish Parliament passing national parks legislation in 2000 as an early part of the land reform programme. Scotland is rich on varied landscapes that are amongst the best in the world, ranking high in their richest quality and diversity. We have stunning beaches, coastlines, ancient woodlands, wild mountains, rivers and lochs, all rich in wildlife and history, and provide great opportunities for outdoor recreation. They are one of our country's greatest assets, attracting visitors from far and wide, and have long been celebrated in art, literature and music worldwide. This worldwide recognition of Scotland's natural and cultural heritage is reflected in our nature-based tourism, which is estimated to be worth around £1.4 billion to the economy, supporting 39,000 full-time equivalent jobs. As the leading international recognised destination for our natural and cultural heritage, national park status brings higher levels of protection to our most treasured landscapes and wildlife, improves opportunities for the restoration of damaged habitats. Since the foundation of two national parks, the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park, established in 2002, and the Cairngorms National Park, established in 2003, have been hugely influential in supporting the health, economy and natural heritage of their areas and the country as a whole. These benefits can clearly be seen in areas such as Abbey Moor. For over 30 years I have been a regular visitor to the area, and I've seen the dramatic changes the town has undergone in time. Originally a small, tranquil town, has been revitalised through investment since the destination in 2003 and is now a leading destination in Scotland. My niece will testify to a number of years I have spent snowboarding in the Cairngorm Mountains, but it now offers so much more. The beauty of the area is diversity. It has arguably become one of the best places in Scotland to experience a range of activities for all ages and abilities, from walking for those who want to relax to whitewater rafting for the more adventurous amongst us. We all know that outdoor recreation brings many recognised benefits for our health and well-being, but never more so than over the last year. The COVID pandemic has affected everything we do, including the way and the volume at which we use the great outdoors, has shown just how much people value parks, beaches and lochs. When people participate in outdoor recreation, they don't just get fitter and healthier, they feel better mentally too. As a member of the Health and Sport Committee, the links between the benefits of physical activity to improving our health and well-being, a topic which has been given considerable attention. It became clear to us during our work on the report Social Prescribing, physical activity is an investment, not a cost. But by positively influencing individual practices and personal behaviour choices, we can build healthier communities and prevent long-term conditions rather than manage them. However, with many increased outdoor activities, there will be associated challenges, as highlighted by the Scottish Campaign for National Parks. The past year has revealed just how essential visitors management is, following many reports of problems related to parking, toilets, litter, camping, fires and path erosion. And I strongly agree that the point that managing access to the countryside and outdoor recreation are at the heart of the National Parks mission, so more national parks can contribute significantly to resolving these problems, benefiting visitors and communities, the environment and future sustainability. I'd like to take a moment to commend the dedication and work of Galloway National Park Association in promoting the establishment of a national park in the area and for extensive engagement with the local community and local authorities. I'm very familiar with the natural beauty of Dumfries area. Every summer my scout group camp in the beautiful Ettrick Valley, and we regularly hike the southern uplands and take in the spectacular Greymare's Tail. View from Loch Skene has to be one of the most stunning panoramic views that you will ever see, but if you get caught there in weather like we have had recently, you will know all about it. A highlight for the Scouts, aside from the breathtaking Dumfriesshire scenery, is always the wild mountain goats. Year after year, children return home completely changed by their experiences. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, I believe that Scotland's national parks lead the way in tackling climate emergency and nature crisis, promoting mental and physical health and well-being, boosting rural employment and celebrating our world-class landscapes. I therefore would welcome further consultation regarding proposals for a third national park in Scotland, as we continue working towards our commitment of increasing protected areas for nature from the current 23% to 30% by 2030. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much, Mr Torrance. I now call Finlay Carson, to be followed by Colin Smith. Mr Carson, please.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to be speaking this evening and thank Emma Harper for bringing this topic back to the Chamber once again, one which I know my dearly missed friend, mentor, Presiding Officer and MSP for Galloway and West Dumfries and long-time champion for national parks, Sir Alec Ferguson, would have approved, but I'm not sure he would have approved of Miss Harper's opportunism suggesting Brexit had anything to do with national parks. I think he'd be more interested in highlighting her SNP's party Burach of missed environmental and biodiversity targets. But I'm sure, like him, after many years of campaigning, he would rather have debated a rather different motion than the one in front of us, because there's little to debate or disagree with the motion. I will not be revisiting old arguments, because there's little doubt that Galloway has all the credentials required for it to be Scotland's next national park. And sadly, we already know the Scottish Government's regrettable and short-sighted position. I would have preferred for this motion to make an unambiguous call that we as parliamentarians demand, given the grassroots support from evidence collected by the Galloway National Park Association and the cross-party political support for the establishment of a new national park, that this government initiates the process set out in the legislation, the National Parks Scotland Act 2000. It states, and I summarise, the Scottish ministers may require SNH or any other public body appearing to them to have the expertise to consider a national park proposal to report to them, including the area which is proposed to be the designated national park, the desirability of designating the area, the functions which is proposed the National Park Authority for the park should exercise, and the likely costs and capital expenditure of the authority in exercising its functions. In short, the feasibility study and consultation on the establishment of a national park in Galloway, the one that we've long asked for. The Galloway National Park Association has already provided a strong case for a national park in Galloway to help balance development and environmental pressures in the area, bringing considerable social and economic benefits. But it's fallen on deaf ears. I just don't buy the Scottish Government's excuse that the South of Scotland Enterprise Agency and the Borderlands Growth Deal will fulfil many of the economic and environmental aims that would be delivered by a national park. Cairngorms National Park is in the High area, and the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park is split between High and Scottish Enterprise. So the South of Scotland Enterprise argument just doesn't hold water. And more worrying, the Minister stated in a letter to me this week, and I quote, It would not be appropriate at this time to set out plans to undertake feasibility studies to designate new national parks, when the focus must be on managing the coronavirus pandemic, building a green recovery and progressing current plans to address climate change and biodiversity laws. Well, I know you're new in your role, Mr McPherson, but really, that's like saying we don't want new national parks because we're focusing on the very thing that new national parks would help us achieve. Now, I'd like to thank the stakeholders for their representations, and first read that the NFU position appears to oppose a national park. However, on closer examination, as with the Scottish Land and Estates, they both pretty much say that they're reserving judgment until they know more about the issues and opportunities that may come from national park status. And I'm absolutely in agreement with that. That's a position I take. I'll be the first person to reject national park status for Galloway if a feasibility study suggested that it would fail to pursue the sustainable economic and social development of local communities alongside conservation and recreation. The Galloway countryside looks as it does right now because of farming practices over the centuries, and farming is critical to achieve the national park's objectives. There will be an increasing emphasis in supporting future farm innovation, diversification and market development, particularly important post-Brexit and with future climate change measures, which will herald a period of significant change. The area would undoubtedly attract additional funding to provide support and advice for farming and rural businesses. Indeed, higher levels of resources tend to be available to farmers within national parks than those out with them. I believe that we can address any unanswered questions and concerns through the formal process that the Scottish Government should undertake. Scotland's existing national parks currently lead the way in tackling the climate change emergency and nurture crisis, promoting mental and physical health and well-being, boosting rural employment and celebrating our world-class landscapes. Existing and new national parks would therefore be ideally placed to kickstart the green future that remote rural areas now require. Scotland needs more national parks, including Galloway. Presiding Officer, Mr McPherson, I urge you to reconsider your position. Your government often tells us that Scotland is world leading. Well, Mr McPherson, in Chile, they've created 5 new national parks covering more than 10 million acres. If a developing nation such as Chile can designate more national parks, surely Scotland can.
Thank you very much, Mr Carson. I now call Colin Smith, who followed by Alistair Allen. Mr Smith.
No, sir. Thank you, President Officer. I welcome the opportunity to make the case again for Galloway National Park, but I have to say it is frustrating that weeks before the end of this Parliament we are debating a motion that just notes calls by the Scottish Government to settle its position. It's more than a year since this Parliament unanimously agreed to support a motion from myself, not only recognising the contribution our national parks make, but agreeing that new national parks should be designated. And sadly, the will of Parliament has so far been ignored. It's more than 20 years since this Parliament passed the National Parks Act 2000, paving the way for the then Labour-led Scottish Executive to create the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park in 2002 and the Cairngorms National Park in 2003. They've delivered a social, economic and environmental boost for those areas. But we know it is unfinished business. Despite Scotland's outstanding natural beauty and the fact that national park status is a successful, internationally recognised brand, we still have just 2 national parks in Scotland. Compare that to 10 in England and 3 in Wales, but also to topographically similar countries such as New Zealand, which has 14, and Norway, which has 37. Given our world-class scenery, the protection and management that national parks give to that scenery, and the positive impact in tourism and rural development of the national park brand, the case to expand the number of parks in Scotland is absolutely compelling, Presiding Officer, which is why it's Labour policy going into the next election to do just that, and also go further by strengthening local accountability. And that's an important point, Presiding Officer. National parks are already governed by people directly elected from the local community, along with local councillors and national experts. We just believe that proportion of local representatives on boards should be a bit higher, a move allowed under the legislation, because ultimately there is no one-size-fits-all model for a national park. Despite the myths, our national park would work, including on planning, would be developed by the local community to meet the needs of the local community. And there's no stronger case, no stronger community support for such a new national park than the one made by the Galloway National Park campaign. They previously highlighted that park status could add between 250,000 and 500,000 new visits each year to Galloway and South Ayrshire, worth between £30 and £60 million in additional spend, helping create and support between 700 and 1,400 additional jobs. Presiding Officer, even before the current pandemic, the weaknesses and challenges of a local economy in one of the most peripheral parts of Scotland were there for all to see, and the economic boost that Galloway National Park could bring was needed. But now that need is more important than ever before. And it would not only play a part in our region leading the way in Scotland's economic recovery, but also our environmental recovery. Last year, the Scottish Government gave a commitment to increase the protected areas for nature to at least 30% of Scotland's terrestrial area by 2030, in line with the International Campaign for Nature. But with the clock ticking, we sit at just 23%. Across the UK, that target is being met by designating new national parks. Scotland is in danger of being left behind. Presiding Officer, in concluding, there's a saying you hear in Dumfries and Galloway, that's how it's always been. It's one that has not served our region well. If we're going to build back better after the pandemic, Dumfries and Galloway needs to raise our game. Young people who leave a region, not because they want to, but because they have to, should not have to accept that's how it's always been. Those that live in poverty because we're the lowest paid region in Scotland should not have to accept that's how it's always been. And when we compare the level of tourism in Dumfries and Galloway, lower than many other areas of the country, when we know just how much a region has to offer, we cannot accept that's how it's always been. There won't be many opportunities that present itself to give the economy of Dumfries and Galloway a boost. It's not a panacea, but it is a rare chance to make a difference, to complement, in fact, add to the environmental work of the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere and the economic work of the new South of Scotland Agency and Borderlands Agreement. The Galloway National Park have submitted a detailed report to the Scottish Government requiring it to carry out a feasibility study. I hope we'll get a commitment today from the Minister to do just that, and we can take a big step towards completing that unfinished business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. And last, I call Alistair Allen, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I thank Emma Harper for bringing this motion to the Chamber. It's not my place, living as far as I do away from Galloway, to tell Gallowegians whether or not they should have a national park or where it might be. I do, however, welcome the debate about that and about the benefits which national parks can bring. I'll try to do that by mentioning the conversations that have already taken place about that issue in my own constituency. However, before I do, I want to say something which I suspect many others have already done today, and that is that the South West is a beautiful part of Scotland that more visitors really do deserve to know something about. When we get past the current crisis, I hope that people in Scotland and beyond will realise what a wonderful part of Scotland Galloway is. Someone who many years ago walked the whole of the southern upland way from Portpatrick through Galloway and on to the east, I can confirm that Galloway has landscapes to rival anything in Scotland. It also has a fascinating history, which has seen speakers of Gaelic, Anglo-Saxon or later Scots and Brythonic, i.e. Welsh, cohabit a landscape made famous through medieval Europe in French by the long poem about Fergus of Galloway. But before I digress about any of that, I want to say that I think more people should see Galloway, and the national park idea may be a way of achieving that, if that is what Galloway chooses. But let me try to offer a few insights into national parks from the Isle of Harris in my constituency. Galloway suffers, I suspect, from some of the same challenges that Harris does, including depopulation exacerbated by a housing market which is increasingly aimed and priced for the benefit of moneyed retirees. And that's why the model for a national park that was promoted within the community in Harris some years ago was aimed not just at protecting the natural environment, but the human one too. It aims to encompass developing the cultural uniqueness of the place and its need for economic development and housing. Now, as someone who personally recoils from the word wilderness, at least when that word is used to describe places in the world that have in fact been inhabited for centuries, I think these are all important factors. Conversely, in Harris, as in Galloway, people are also aware of the need to ensure that any hypothetical national park manages the number of tourists sustainably. People, it must be admitted, do have a tendency to go on holiday where they are told to. But if the community has the lead in all of these debates and decisions in Galloway, I'm sure Galloway is more than capable of taking the right ones. In Harris, people voted in a referendum in favour of a national park. In the end, the necessary buy-in from the local authority for the idea wasn't there. But the idea has so far not progressed in Harris, but it may again appear in future given the hard work that went into coming forward with the original proposals. So, with those observations from elsewhere, I wish people in Galloway every success as they reach their own decisions about whether or not to pursue the idea of a national park, and hope that today's debate is a way of helping to move that conversation forward.
Thank you very much, Mr Allen. I now call on Ben McPherson to close for the government. Minister, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The contribution of our national parks and the contribution that they make to conserving our natural environment and delivering sustainable economic growth is unquestioned and has been emphasised by colleagues today, and quite rightly. Their work in protecting species and habitats, promoting tourism, facilitating the enjoyment and health benefits of use of the outdoors, and promoting local and national priorities is fully recognised and very much valued by the Scottish Government. And I thank Emma Harper for drawing this important issue to our attention, and the considerable work which has been undertaken by the Galloway National Park Association and on their aspirations for the area as a whole, including a new national park. Galloway is an area of outstanding natural beauty which boosts an abundance of wildlife, superb coastlines and scenic uplands, and it is also home to Scotland's first dark sky park, sited in the ancient Galloway Forest Park, as well as an internationally designated UNESCO biosphere. In recognition of its unique landscape, the area has 3 designated national scientific areas as well. So in recognition of the importance of the Galloway area, and on the matters of discussion today, my predecessor, Mary Goujon, met with the Galloway National Park Association and Finlay Carson MSP on a number of occasions to explain the Scottish Government's long-standing position on the designation of new national parks. While we fully understand the desire to maximise the benefits of the area and the enthusiasm for a new national park designation, the Scottish Government's position remains unchanged at present, with no plans to designate new national parks in Scotland. And there are a number of reasons for this, good reasons, which I'll now set out in more detail. Presiding Officer, I appreciate that there is a long-standing belief amongst campaigners that national park status provides the top accolade in terms of environmental designation and safeguards against potential development. National parks, however, are by no means the only positive designation to recognise the natural heritage of an area and to stimulate its potential economic growth. And the south of Scotland currently benefits from a range of designations that recognise its landscape and are aimed at increasing tourism, boosting jobs and bringing investment to the area, all aspirations and aims that members rightly highlighted today. And I'm keen to make sure that we are making the best possible use of existing designations. The south of Scotland is already home to a biosphere, as I mentioned, the Galloway Forest Park, national nature reserves, several sites of special scientific interest and special areas of conservation. National park status, therefore, is just one of many landscape designations which can help boost the economic opportunities of an area, but is certainly not the only one. Furthermore, I fully recognise that the south of Scotland has a particular set of social-economic challenges that need to be addressed, which is why we are making significant investment in the area. The new South of Scotland Economic Agency and the Borderland Inclusive Growth Deal, over £400 million in total, have a key role in addressing the economic issues in the area and driving growth in tourism. Until the new agency has had time to bed in and the significant investment in the Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal has had time to take effect, we do not believe it is appropriate to make further commitments on the scale and significance that national park designation would require. So there's a process and a consideration to go through in the years ahead that we can do so collectively. Furthermore, Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government has very real concerns over the costs which would be associated with the designation of new national parks in Scotland. I'm afraid that we do not share the optimism that meaningful new parks could be set up at minimal cost. Costs associated with a new national park would be considerable and involve a complex process of consultation and consideration by the Scottish Government and the Scottish Parliament. Timescales are estimated at between 2 to 4 years, depending on the level of support, functions and governance structure suggested. Our existing national parks have combined annual budgets of over £18 million in 21-22, which in part recognises the additional financial pressures and challenges that responding to the COVID-19 pandemic has required, as I alluded to in my letter to Mr Carson this week. We therefore need to appropriately and prudently consider the affordability of additional investment on this scale at this time, given the current pressures facing existing national parks, tourism and hospitality across the country, and the private public finances more generally. And we just have to be explicit and realistic in that regard. Presiding Officer, while I fully recognise, and the Scottish Government fully recognises, the strong desire to build on the success, the remarkable success of our existing national parks, and while we wish to, well, have a desire to build on the success of that by the Galloway National Park Association and the enthusiasm that there is from them and MSP colleagues who have spoken today, I'm also aware that not everyone shares the same level of enthusiasm. As has been referenced, for example, the National Farmers Union of Scotland has reservations about the proposals. And so such different views simply demonstrate the need to balance the interests and ensure we maximise the potential benefits from the area's existing designations and opportunities, and consider and realise that as much as possible. And the new South of Scotland Economic Agency has an important role to play in this regard. Because, Presiding Officer, the creation of a new national park requires considerable planning and carries cost implications, as I have referenced. And given the considerations I have outlined above through these remarks as a whole, we believe that it is essential at present to focus support on our two existing national parks and to ensure that they continue their valuable contribution to tourism and sustainable rural economic development at this time. However, I pay tribute to all those who have spoken today and those who have been campaigning on this issue, and particularly to the Galloway National Park Association for their work so far. And the Scottish Government very much looks forward to continued engagement and with constituency and regional MSPs on how we appropriately progress our shared aspirations, and we are very much shared in this regard, for enhancing and recognising the natural environment and interests in Galloway as a whole and the south of Scotland more widely. So I thank members for their contributions and the Association for their work, and particularly Emma Hart for bringing this, her motion and this topic to the Parliament. We should continue to talk, continue to engage, continue to work together to enhance and recognise the natural environment and other interests in Galloway and in the south of Scotland more widely. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I close this meeting of Parliament.